Hi guys, welcome to another episode. And today I have Ben Leonard, best known as the founder of Beast Gear. Ben Leonard is the classic millennial entrepreneur. He built a business on a laptop in cardboard in his spare time. The difference, Ben grew an international seven-figure business and successfully exited after 3 years. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions about this. So the business is a holy grail. Now Ben is doing it all over again and helping others to do the same with his e-commerce brokerage company that he started. Welcome, Ben. How are you today?
I'm great. It's good to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course, and it's a pleasure for me, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers will learn some valuable information from someone that started an FBA business and was able to exit. And we all want to learn more about yourself and about your journey. So, how did you get into like Amazon FBA in general,
Yeah,
and when was
it
it?
was an accident. It happened in 2016, early 2016. I was working in my day job. My background is science. I was working as an environmental scientist, and I got sick, and I had to stop work for a while and stop all my fitness hobbies. I was at the time I did a lot of boxing, CrossFit, running, lifting heavy weights. I had to stop whilst I recovered from the heart problem, and I'm totally fine now. So I needed something to do. I needed a hobby. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she was busy studying, so she encouraged me to do something with my time. And I had this idea to create a brand of fitness equipment because that was my passion. And I did, and it turned out I was quite good. So I quit my job, and over the next three and a half years, I scaled this business up. And in late 2019, we were doing about $6 million sales per year.
Oh,
And I sold. It was right before the explosion in mergers and acquisitions that we've seen in the e-commerce space. And yeah, that's how I got into e-commerce. And now my journey's taken a different turn. When I sold it back then, I sold it through a broker. And being an entrepreneur, I spotted a gap for a better experience than with the broker that I used. So I created Ecom Brokers with my co-founder, Allison. And here we are. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm still building brands now, because I love it and I enjoy it. And it means that I can relate to our clients and I understand what it's like to be an e-commerce business owner. And yeah, it was a bit of a ride, that journey, but it was fun.
that's cool. You mentioned that you were a scientist before, like that was your job. What exactly you did with that? Like, what was the job and why you
Yeah,
decided to quit? I guess like it's took you a few years just for studies, right? And you just let it
yeah.
go.
Um, a lot of people, they quit their job and become an entrepreneur because they don't like their job. I liked my job. I did. So I was working in the oil industry. I was the token tree hugger in the room, telling the engineers that they weren't allowed to throw chemicals in the sea. I studied zoology, and I specialized in dolphins, and then I studied ecology, and I did like my job. But uh, when I started this hobby, this business as a hobby, I discovered an entrepreneurial spark inside me that I didn't know I had. And after it became clear that this was more than a hobby, this was going somewhere,
Mhm.
I went to see my boss and I said to her, I need to quit because this is going so well. I need to give this a try. I have to try this. I have this spark in me that I need to test. She was amazing. She said, "This is so cool. I totally support you. Here's a better idea. Don't quit. I'm going to give you a year's sabbatical. So if it goes well, then goodbye. We'll never see you again. And if the business doesn't go well, you get your job back after a year." So that was amazing. So that gave me a real safety net to go and give it a try. So I will always be grateful for that. So yeah, I did like my job, but I discovered an entrepreneurial spark inside me that I needed to burn through. And I think I'll probably be an entrepreneur of some kind, probably for about the next 10 years. And then I have this idea that I'll probably get back into environmental stuff, probably into conservation, where I think they could probably use a little bit more entrepreneurial spirit and business know-how to get stuff done.
100%. And You mentioned about this is a really nice story to hear that she supported you like that and gave you
Mm.
that opportunity because it's amazing. But I was in a similar situation. I didn't really need the money that I got from from Amazon to really the cash out or get a salary or something like that. So I reinvested everything back to the business. And I think this is something that is super important, that people have a plan in case a product not just fail, but if it's becoming a success, you also need to have a plan. How you are going to support the inventory and really think about all the steps that come. And you can learn from people like Ben and myself, like with our experience. You don't have to really invent the wheel. It's all over the internet, and you can really listen to other people that were in the same situation and don't just just learn from their experience.
Mm.
Now that's really nice to hear. But how did you get into Amazon? Like why you decided Amazon? I know that you had this idea of
Yep.
creating this brand. Why don't launch it on your own Shopify store? Or we're curious to hear why Amazon.
Yeah. So the business did sell products on our own website as well, but we did start on Amazon. And after I decided that I would develop this brand, I knew I needed somewhere to sell it. And I had discovered, I can't remember how, just through Googling, that third party selling on Amazon was a thing. Previously I didn't know. I was one of those ignorant people who thought that when you buy something on Amazon, you're buying it from Amazon. I didn't even know third party selling was a thing. And so I discovered that it was, and I did a bit more research, and it seemed like a pretty simple business model to me, right? I ship the stuff into Amazon, they take care of the fulfillment and the returns. I pay them a commission for doing so. That sounds pretty good. Because at the time, of course, I was living in an apartment. I had nowhere to store inventory. So, this seemed like a really good business model to me. But I also knew that I needed to build assets for my own brand, right? You can't just rely on one sales channel. So that's why I also started to sell on my own website. And I knew from the start that I had to turn this business into a legitimate brand and not just a collection of random stuff being sold on Amazon.
That's cool. That's cool. And when a lot of people asking me, should I start Shopify? Should I, at what stage after I started to sell on Amazon? So I'm curious to hear from you. What was the percentage of revenue if we compare it to Amazon? And of
So,
course, it depends on the nature and all of that. But
yeah, so across the whole business, the percentage of Amazon to own website was about 98% Amazon.
okay.
But the website only fulfilled orders to customers in the UK, and Amazon was on the UK, the rest of Europe, and then right before I sold, we were selling on Amazon Australia and Amazon Middle East. So I think if my plan had been to expand my website to fulfill across Europe, but I didn't do that because I sold before I had the chance to do that. If I'd done that, probably would have been more like maybe a 90, I don't know, a 92, 94% Amazon, something like that. But still, the vast majority was Amazon. But what I would say is because I had developed this brand into a legitimate brand, people were Googling and searching for it. If something terrible had happened and my Amazon account had got suspended or whatever, a significant proportion of people, I think, then would have come and bought from me on my own website. And so it would not have been good to have got suspended or to have gone down on Amazon, but at least I would have had a safety net.
Nice. And okay, so we have so many questions for you, but maybe you can answer real quick before I jump into the next question. When you started, the first product was a success, or did you fail? How was with dealing with failure and with things that didn't work the way that you wanted it to work?
Yeah, so I was fortunate. The first product was a success. I remember waiting for the inventory to arrive from China and worrying and thinking, oh no, I think I picked the wrong product. I don't think this is going to go well. And it did go well. And I knew with hindsight that it went well because I trusted my gut, because I did what you should do, which is you should uh, create a brand that's selling products that you are interested in, right? So I was my customer and I knew that my customers wanted this product. So the first product was the jump rope, and it was an improvement on what was already available. So I knew that I had a great opportunity there to make a success of it, and I did. So, I got off to a great start. But you mentioned there, what about when things go wrong? Yeah, I had some setbacks. In particular, I developed the product. I designed a product myself. I came up with the concept, and then I worked with a product designer to develop it. It was a thick bar adapter for dumbbells and barbells, and I had it patented, which was a really smart thing to do. And there was a competitor on the market which had existed for probably 10, 20 years with no one challenging it significantly. And so I came on the market and I was selling my product at a much fairer price. The other brand was basically ripping off the consumer. And my product was becoming the leader in the space. And this other brand got upset, obviously. And they were owned by an enormous corporation, and they tried to sue me. And because they alleged that I was infringing on their patent. And so my product was suspended on Amazon for about a month, whilst my lawyers figured out what was going on. And to cut a long story short, after about a month, we were able to demonstrate to Amazon that my product was not infringing on their patent. And in actual fact, their own patent was so poorly put together, the drawings on their own patent were so poor that it didn't actually protect their own product. So after about a month, I got my product reinstated. But it cost me like £15,000, so whatever that is in dollars, like $20,000 to fix the issue, not to mention all the lost sales.
Yeah.
And I never, because I was down for a month, I never got those back. I tried to recover that from the other side and get them to pay my legal fees, was never able to succeed in that. So that really sucked. But, I did win in the end. And my product did go on to continue to become the leader in that space. But it was tough at the time, because you get these letters from these big organizations telling you to stop selling. We're going to sue you out of existence. And, I was just a guy selling stuff off my laptop in my spare room. It was really scary, but I got through it. And that's what you got to do. You just got to keep going and always get advice from experts, right? So I spoke to, the best intellectual property lawyers that I could find. Okay. And I think when it comes to something like intellectual property, you don't mess around.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people would just give up and don't want to even deal with it. So, that's an experience. You can definitely, have this experience behind you. And I'm sure that in the future, it will help you with some other stuff that you do. That's really great. And I wanted to ask if you paid lawyers, and I guess that the 15,000 just for the legal fees, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That was legal fees. It was a drawn out process, and I see people all the time on Facebook and Twitter saying, "Oh, what can I do to get a trademark or get a patent?" And somebody replies saying, "Oh, you could do it yourself for not very much money." And I always think, no, don't do it yourself. Always, I'm a great fan of saving money, right? I'm from a part of Scotland where we're all known for saving money, but when it comes to intellectual property, you don't mess around, and you really want to make sure that you've got everything in order, because one day it might come back to bite you if you don't.
100%. So you were having like 6 million in sales, mid seven figures, close to eight figures. It didn't really. Why you decided to sell? Why like it didn't really had this itch to get to eight figures and just run it for a little longer?
Yeah, so it was. I made the decision in early 2019 to sell. I'd heard these whispers on the grapevine that e-commerce businesses were becoming a little bit more acceptable to buy and sell, and that there was some money pouring in to acquire e-commerce businesses. And I realized that I could take significant money off the table. My wife was pregnant. We wanted to move house. I was just about to I just turned 30. And I just felt like it was a good time to create a safety net for me and my family. I still loved the brand. I still do love the brand. And perhaps if it wasn't my first business, if I'd already had an exit under my belt and I already had that safety net, then maybe I would have stuck around to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
But it was the right thing for us at the time. And I learned, somebody taught me an important lesson when I was thinking about selling. It was my dad. And he said to me, sell the business at the point of peak romance. And what that means is this: the business is going well, and you've reached a point where you believe, boy, this could be something big. but at the same time, it might not be something big. So you're at the point of peak romance. It could be huge, but it might not. So if you sell now, there's a lot of potential upside in the business, which will A, attract a buyer, and B, which you can experience as well if you negotiate the deal right. For instance, in an earnout or some sort of consultancy agreement, whatever it might be. So you can still experience some of that upside. But it's not set in stone that the business is going to go somewhere huge. It might not. And so it's still a great time to get out, because then you're getting out when it's at that point of maximum almost potential energy, but you have no guarantees that that's going to be fulfilled. So if it's not fulfilled, then you got out at the right time. So yeah, that's why I sold.
Yeah, that's exactly like the situation that I'm facing right now. Business-wise, it's not really smart to sell, but I feel that at this point in my life, where majority of the income is attributed to Amazon, I
Yep.
can just take that risk. I have family and two girls, so I have to really make sure that I have that safety net, like you mentioned. And that's really part of what I do. And you mentioned at the beginning that because of the experience that you had while selling your brand, you decided after to open the Ecom Brokers.
Yeah.
Why? What was the issues that you dealt with? And how
Yeah.
you were willing, like, if you can share how the deal was, like how long it took, if you had any issues. I know who you sold to. Is that okay to mention it here, or you're
Yeah, you
under
can see
NDA?
you can mention who I sold to. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you mentioned you sold it to Ratio, and that's the
Yep.
first acquisition in Europe. So that's pretty
I think
cool.
so. I
Yeah,
believe
one of the first ones.
I think it might have been their second European acquisition and probably their first British acquisition. And they were great. No complaints there. But when I sold it through the broker, I approached them in early 2019, I think late February or early March. The deal wasn't done until Halloween. So it took a long time, because
Approximately how many months we're talking?
March, April, May, June, July,
Like
like
six.
8 months. Yeah, it took
Wow.
ages, right?
Wow.
Now, the good news is that during that whole time, the business was growing like crazy. So the value of the business was going up. But the problem with the broker, and you got to remember that at this time, mergers and acquisitions in e-commerce was very new. So there were limited options in terms of the broker. And I had a recommendation from a friend who did have a good experience with that broker. So that influenced why I went with them in the first place.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my experience wasn't as good. The person handling the deal or crunching the numbers wasn't an accountant. They had a completely different background. I think they had a degree in like art or something. But they'd been trained by this brokerage in how to pull down reports from Amazon and Shopify and slap them in a Google Sheet and then just slap a random value on the business based on what they'd been selling recently, businesses for. And when they came back with this valuation to me, which took them far too long to come up with, I knew immediately that it didn't look right. So I got my own accountant, to look into it. And we discovered an error in their calculations, something akin to like a decimal point in the wrong place. It wasn't that, but that type of error. It was very poor. And it would have undervalued the business by about 30%. And they didn't catch it. Nobody there caught it, but we did. And so after my accountant fixed everything, I said to them, look, I'm negotiating down your commission because we've done your job for you, which we were able to agree. So that was a silver lining. I paid them less and they still found me the buyer, which was fine. But at the end of the experience, my accountant, Allison, and I put our heads together and said, there's clearly a gap in the market here for a better experience for sellers. A brokerage who actually has the experience on all sides, me on the e-commerce side, understanding what it takes to run an e-commerce brand, to bring products to market, to develop a brand that consumers are excited about, and what it's like on the day-to-day running an e-commerce business. And then Allison's got like 20 years mergers and acquisitions experience and about more than 25 years experience as a chartered accountant. So combining those skill sets, we felt like we were able to offer more and give a better experience. And so we did. It's the classic entrepreneurial thing, isn't it? You scratch your own itch, right? You experience a problem, so you solve it. And so here we are with Ecom Brokers.
And for how long you guys operating?
Ecom Brokers has existed for around about a year. Allison's been doing deals for like 20 years. But Ecom Brokers as a brand has existed for about a year.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So
And you're able to make some deals and things going on?
yeah. So as of now, we've done about 22, 23 deals. So it started slow because, of course, nobody had heard of us, obviously, and we're up against all the aggregators and all they've got huge amounts of money and they're able to do some pretty smart marketing. But over time, sellers are getting smarter. They're beginning to understand that actually the best thing for them is to do what they do in every other industry. When you want to sell, is work with an expert to plan your exit and then execute the exit. And that's the best way to sell, and that's how you're going to get the best possible price and a deal structure that's fair and suits you. And so yeah, people are starting to understand now that that's the right thing to do.
Okay. I'm just want to make things a little more clear to myself and the viewers or listeners that are going to listen to this. I work, for example, with Fortunate. This is a brokerage firm, so that basically the fees are being taken from from the seller, not from the buyer. But you're basically brokers that you get your fees from the buyers, right?
Nope.
I'm
Our
sorry,
fees
from the
from the
seller
seller.
too.
Yep, from the seller. We would never take a kickback from a buyer.
Okay.
So yeah, we represent the seller, and our job is to maximize the value of their business
Yes.
through the appropriate analysis and adjustments. Market the business to a pool of the right buyers, and then work with them and a mergers and acquisitions attorney to negotiate the best possible deal. And so, yeah, we charge the seller. And there are some buyers out there who say to us, oh, hey, if you can show us these deals first, we can pay you an extra referral fee or whatever. And we would never take it
Yeah.
because that compromises our integrity.
Yes.
Our position is that we are we're representing the seller.
Okay, so yeah, that's good to hear because your interest is the seller, not the buyer. And sometimes
Yep.
people don't. I almost sold my business, my FBA business in February 2021. But who represented the buyers? It's a broker, and their interest it was first. So it's
Mm.
important to understand how it works before you actually sign up or deal with someone. You want to go with brokerage firms like Ben or like Yael, Fortunate, those type of people that will protect you first. Their main interest is to really get you the best number because it will influence their fees as well. And also, of course, they check things that are that we as people that never did these kind of deals are not aware of. So I definitely
Yeah.
agree with you that it's important to hire an expert to do that for you.
Yeah, it's a strange mindset that some sellers have. Some really smart people create a fantastic business, and whilst they're running it, they work with experts. They get experts to do their photography, they get experts to do their translations, they get experts to do their PPC, and they get experts to do their trademarks. And then one day they wake up and decide to sell and do it by themselves and not
Yeah,
use experts.
yeah,
It's kind of crazy.
the simplest thing. Yeah.
But more and more people like us, and you mentioned Yale, are kind of banging the drum for taking your business through the right process, like happens in every other industry.
100%. Now we hear this a lot that the aggregators raised so much money and multiples are going up due
Mm.
to there is more demand than supply, I guess. But I hear it from someone in the industry is a small aggregator, new aggregator, small relatively to Ratio and the bigger players. That it's not that there is no enough deals. Actually, there are a lot of deals, but the criteria that each aggregator is work on basically limit what they actually digging in and seeing. Is it something that you see as well? They work with the criteria like we do product research, and if it doesn't fall within the bracket, they just don't even look at it.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. So every aggregator has a particular set of criteria, whether that's category, geography, um, SDE level, revenue level, all this type of stuff. And so that limits the size of the pond that they're fishing in, if you like.
Yeah.
It's important to mention though that a good sales process will not just market your business to aggregators, but will cast a wide net to find other potential buyers, which could be competitors, could be other private equity, more traditional private equity, could be family offices, could be private individuals, could be a competitor who's offline who wants to get online. All sorts of other potential buyers for your business. And the more buyers you have who are not aggregators at the table, the higher the price is going to be pushed, because typically they're willing to pay a higher multiple.
Yeah, nice. If you have like two tips or two things sellers should focus on before they're selling as far as metrics, I don't know, like margin or tacos or those kind of metrics that aggregators looking at, that would be really valuable, I think.
Yeah, margin north of 15% really. Some will look at lower because they actually might spot an opportunity there, and they back themselves to improve that margin once they bring it into their portfolio, and then they can realize efficiency improvements. But yeah, keep your margin reasonably high. As well as you can. And then once you're at a stable, high enough margin and you're starting to ramp up for an exit, then top line is really important. Start ramping up the top line as well as you can. Obviously, keep your PPC under control. Those are really important things. And then aside from the number crunching side of it, make sure that you have everything in order from an intellectual property point of view, all your documentation, your tax filings. Make sure everything's neat and tidy. The T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And if you have ever been involved in any black hat stuff, or you're in any kind of risky areas in that way, stop. Just stop, because nobody wants to buy a business that's involved in anything like that.
Yeah, but they still buy.
Well, yeah, that does happen. That does happen. That is true.
Yeah. I personally, would never want to, sell someone a business that is at risk that, tomorrow they could, have it suspended or the listing have issues. With myself, I wouldn't really feel good. And I
No,
think everyone should do that, in general, like doing black hat stuff, it's not really sustainable. It's maybe
no, it's
short.
absolutely not. And if you have sold a business without disclosing something during due diligence that later becomes
So, yeah.
apparent, then you could be in quite a lot of trouble.
Yes.
So it is important that if you have engaged in anything gray area, that you disclose it during the due diligence process, because it won't necessarily kill the deal if it's only gray area and if you've stopped. And if you don't disclose it, that could cause problems later.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that would be all. I wanted to keep all these interviews as, not as short as possible, but around the 30 minutes mark.
Mm.
Do you have anything else to add for people interested to sell, or about yourself, before we wrap it up?
Sure. Yeah, if you want to hear more about us, we're over at ecombrokers.co.uk. On that site, you can get a free ebook about how to prepare your business for sale. I love to help and to talk with people. No hard sell. So if you want to chat with me, you can get me on LinkedIn. You can email me, ben@ecombrokers.co.uk. And I'm on all the main social media channels. My handle is at Ben Leonard Pro. And appreciate people taking the time to listen to our conversation today. And I'm here to help, so give me a shout.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story, your journey, and what you're up to these days. I really appreciate it, and hopefully you can be here a guest in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks, man.
Thank you very much.